Hey, it's your friendly neighborhood counselor, Dr. Will. Welcome to Side Quests and Skill Trees, where healing meets gameplay, and you know we gotta do it right. So, in every great RPG, the main quest matters, but the side quests are where you gather what you didn't know you needed: insight, allies, resources, reps. And so here, side quests are the optional tasks you choose in real life. Small missions that build momentum without burning you out. And skill trees are the essential skills you level up on purpose. So emotional regulation, communication, boundaries, rest, courage, and self-trust. So your life actually plays better. So like we say, optional tasks, essential skills. Let's level up. And I have someone very special and dear to me. Who are you?
My name is Kyle Locke. I'm a newly licensed LPC therapist and just recently joined the Washington Wellness Institute and big onto solutions focused and different approaches, CBT, DBT, and logotherapy, but also I do grief counseling, so which is very important for today's episode because today's journey is what we're going to call the grief saga. So, and for this series, we are doing something a little bit different. We're going to be playing through some games while we discuss all of these different things. And so I've got a game here loaded up. We're going to switch. All right, and there's the game. Took a little bit for us to get it all set up, but we are ready to go. Will, you said that you wanted to... I introduced myself and kind of my focus, and you wanted to take some time to do that for yourself as well, right?
Yeah, I didn't have a focus. All right, so let me focus. So I go by Dr. Will. I am a health psychologist. My expertise is in moral distress. So moral distress is knowing the right thing to do, but because of an institutional or organizational constraint, you cannot perform at your best ability. And it causes secondary traumas such as compassion fatigue, burnout, job life satisfaction. It can cause emotional callousing. And I'm an expert at making holistic application to anything that comes psychologically. So a lot of my work, and people hire me for, is to actually put me in positions to help modernize their work, modernize their working, reframe their ability to look at themselves. And I am specialized also in grief. I'm specialized in life transitions. I'm specialized in internal family systems therapy, or IFS therapy. I'm an assistant trainer for them as well at the Institute. I am also, well, if you ever seen the movie Inside Out 1 and 2, it's kind of like that. So if you ever watch Inside Out 1 and 2, there's a therapy that's very similar to that. I'm also a ketamine-assisted psychedelic therapist, so I do believe in the psychedelic world and plant medicine. I actually use ketamine. I'm also certified through MAPS with MDMA. So whenever that becomes legal, I'll be using that to also help people with severe traumas as well. I specialize in mainly extreme cases, even though I do work on more solution-focused things here and there, but my focus is really more on intensive work. So the work I do is sometimes a little more intensive than people expect, but I love to do the hard thing first. And that's just who I am as a person. But also I love the flow of it all. And I also would say I'm also a virtual reality therapist. So I actually created a world during the pandemic to help kids connect. I do believe in games culture. So the games we play can also heal us at the same time. And so I really love the fact that our institute is doing this, because gaming and games culture helps bring communication and socialization to a healthy approach, and it has the ability to rebuild communities as well. So I'm really excited to be here. I'm excited to talk about the grief saga, and there's some other specialties I have as well, but I think that's enough for now. I think that'll be good for now, because that's a lot of work. So Kyle, is it okay if I get into the grief saga? Is that okay?
Absolutely. So yeah, just because I started just playing, for people who may not be familiar with this game, this is Rogue Legacy. It's a roguelike game. Basically, if you're familiar with Castlevania or like Metroid games, it's very much like a castle exploration game. If you die, then your character, you take on one of their children as the next person to go into this castle, and the whole goal is to take down all of the bosses in one go. High replayability, very entertaining and fun, and all of the characters have special traits and everything that make them unique. So like this character is very heavy, so they can't be knocked back. They also had some other what is it? They're a savant, so they get randomized spells, and they're a barbarian, so huge HP, low strength, and MP. But yeah, every single character gets like these different loadouts. So, so today we are going to be starting the saga of discussing grief and kind of what is grief, what does it look like, how does it present itself, and then we had some people reach out with some questions and even some testimonials and personal experiences to share today. So,
amazing. So, let's do this. So, in side quests and skill trees, we treat grief like an arc in the story, not a bug in the game. Grief is what happens when love losses. You know, I guess the best way to say it is, it's not just sadness. It can look like a fog, an irritation, a numbness, forgetfulness. It can feel like a deep tenderness even. Right? And I've had moments where, you know, you're in the aisle of a grocery store and you're just having random tears looking at cereal because it reminds you of a person, place, or a thing. Right? And it's that weird moment you laugh really great, and you're having a great moment in your life, and you feel guilty for actually having fun. So grief is shape-shifting. And I want you to know that that is normal. I do believe in normal. Normal is real, right? You're not doing it wrong. You're doing something human. It's normal to have a great moment and then have a moment of despair. So here's the move for today. We're not trying to beat grief. We're trying to travel with it without letting it hijack the whole campaign, right? So that's where the model comes in. Optional tasks, essential skills. And so your optional task today, it might be something tiny like drink water, take a shower, step outside for 2 minutes in the cold, especially if you're in Cleveland, text one safe person, eat something with actual nutrients, put a hand on your chest and just breathe like you mean it, right? Not because it fixes everything, it's because it keeps you in the game. You gotta stay in the game. And so that's for the optional task. Now for the essential skills, and Kyle, be ready for these questions I'm coming up with you, okay? So yep. I know you're playing, but you're going to be answering questions, right? You're the expert, so I'm going to be coming to you. All right, but the essential skills for today are the ones grief demands we level up. So your presence, staying with what's real, permission, letting feelings exist without arguing with them, pacing, rest without shame, and connection, right? Isolation is an onset to depression. Isolation is not a solution. So if you're grieving right now, I want you to hear this very clearly to me, very clearly from me. You don't have to be strong in the loud way. You can be strong in the quiet way. So please stay honest, stay alive in your own needs, and take the next small step. So, welcome to the grief saga. Kyle, are you ready?
And I think one thing I also want to kind of really specify is that the thing about grief is that we often think about grief as losing a loved one. We think about it as death. And that is what we primarily think about when we discuss grief. Like, you know, loss of a loved one or someone passes away. But grief is much bigger than that, and grief comes in many different forms. You can be grieving any kind of loss, and so a lot of times people, they grieve, the loss of a job. They grieve the loss of, a previous version of themselves, a loss of a relationship. There's many different ways that grief can kind of manifest itself. And so being able to understand that, grief is a process that you're going to experience in many different ways, I think makes it a lot easier for you to kind of face it head on and be able to, understand it better. And so I do want to kind of emphasize, like, grief is more than just people passing away. It is loss. So I did want to just emphasize that, because I feel like it's an often forgotten important point. So
Yeah. And I appreciate you saying that, because grief really is love with nowhere to go,
yes.
right? It shows up wearing different outfits.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really think, for the first question here, when you hear the word grief, what's the first image, song, or phrase that pops up to you?
When I hear the word grief, what's the first image that pops in my brain, or first song, or things like that? That is a good question. What do you feel like? What do you think? Because I'm going to take a minute to think about that.
Yeah. So for me, I always think the song "Dance with My Father Again" by Luther Vandross. When my father passed when I was a teenager, we were driving home from Cleveland back to Toledo, and I literally, that song came on. It was like it came out during that time. So like Luther Vandross's new song, "Dance with My Father," I was like, what? I was like, so me, my mom, my brother were in the car, just like in tears, just crying, like it was amazing. So when I hear that song, and also the song Sadie from the Spinners, that was my dad's favorite song. So whenever I hear those two songs, I really connect with that. And it's amazing how that song can just trigger that memory for me.
Yeah, I think for me, it's not necessarily like song or a picture or anything like that, but a person. For me, it's definitely the first person I genuinely had like an experiential grief with, which was losing my grandfather. So he was a big part of my life, and so
He's a great guy.
Yeah, I often think about him, because he taught the things he taught me, and a lot of the life skills that I learned from him. So I'd say I think of him. I think of him as the person that he was, and what he did for me and for everybody he knew, and the impact he had on community too.
Yeah.
We got some gold.
So I know this sounds a little forward, but what kind of support feels helpful to you, right? Silence, presence, prayer, laughter, food, advice. Like what's a quick one?
So when it comes to like a lot of the skills that I personally teach, like in grief counseling, stuff like that, I think it's very important to not try to push down the feelings, obviously, and obviously that is an overall therapy skill. Like, just we very much do not want to be doing that, because that is just going to lead to the volcano explosion. Like, we don't want to push down the emotions, because they will come back up eventually, and we'd rather have them come out in healthy ways rather than in ways that are going to turn into negative maladaptive behaviors or things like that. And so being able to first experience the feeling, really let yourself feel the feeling, is important. But as far as like ways that you can continue moving forward on a regular basis with grief, there's a lot of different ways that you can approach it. You can approach it by, some clients I've had will do letters to the person, whether it be a letter to the person who has passed, a letter to their previous self, a letter to a relationship. And it doesn't have to be something that a person reads. It doesn't have to be something that, goes anywhere. It can just be something that allows you to externalize those emotions. That's a big one that I do with people, as well as, a common one that we have in therapy is the empty chair technique. Picture this person, or whoever it may be, or whatever it may be, in the chair next to you, and have a conversation with them. Imagine what their response would be. It seems really awkward, especially the first time you do it, but a lot of people find it very, very enlightening, validating, and feel like they have a weight lifted off their shoulders by doing something along those lines. What about you? What are some of the things that you usually approach with grief? Like, what are some different skills and different things that you've taught people?
Yeah, I've taught people how to humanize their grief. Sometimes they will glorify it or romanticize it, or make it become something bigger than them, right? It almost becomes this existential dread.
Yeah.
And so I remind them that it's not just death, it's identity loss, it's divorce, it's migration, it's illness, it's infertility, it's job loss, estrangement, community rupture, burnout. It's the life I thought I'd have. So I teach people that grief is really the passion of regret, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really important that the different types of grief will be reflective based upon the culture you come from as well. And I don't want to idealize or make an ideology of it all. It also, it's in your body as well. Your body becomes heavier. You become numb. Food doesn't taste the same anymore, right? Sex may be less pleasurable, right? Or you may use sex to numb it, right? And so I try to make sure that we modernize what grief really is. And I'm curious, how do you reframe grief for your clients?
So I think it depends on the person. A lot of times, grief is going to manifest itself in many different ways. That's really determining, where it's coming from. If we go with the traditional, someone passing away, it's possible that, you reframe to, what are some of the things that you learned from this person that you can use to kind of keep their identity and their consciousness still a part of you. How can you utilize the things that they meant to you and that they did for you as a way to continue on their legacy, Squire chest. Just continue to, see what impact they had on you. What is it that made them the person that they were for you, and how can you honor that for them? Some people it could be as something as like, the way that the person treated others. It could be how you, what their morals were, their ethics. It could have been their worldviews. Anything that's kind of you found a sense of respect and authenticity from them that you are able to continue implement moving forward. So again, I refer back to like my grandfather. He very much was a very stand-up individual, cared very much about trying to make a difference in the world around him, in the community. And so, before I did this job, I was a case manager. I worked in community mental health. I did a lot of work trying to help other people, get out of poor situations, horrible situations, like trying to, get them into a place where they were better off. And so honoring them in that way is a good way to reframe, because then you're taking something that may be a negative experience and you are shifting it into a positive outcome. So how about yourself? How do you usually approach?
Yeah, I think for me, I try to recognize how grief becomes its own person, and we try to push it away, but we don't know how to befriend it. And sometimes, well, a lot of times people think grief is what's happening to me, but grief is everything that's happening around me. Because our perspective of what's around me is now seen more offensive than actually relative. And this goes just go back to just the understanding of trauma in general, right? People think, oh, I went through trauma, so I have to deal with it myself and go to individual therapy and be by myself and cut everybody off. And the truth is that the trauma that you experienced was relational, which means that the healing that you need is going to be relational too. And I think that is something people don't recognize in their healing process, is that you actually have to go back to new community, or you have to go back to community again. You don't get to live your life isolated and think you're present because you're around other people, right? And also we got to talk about collective grief as well.
Yes.
That's a real thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's sad. It's sad when that actually. I've seen it happen where people are a part of a community, they go through a grief on their own, and then they feel rejected from the community that they were once a part of. They're more critical of a whole community because of how they experience grief.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was just saying collective grief and what that looks like. And I think, one of the, or a couple examples that I can think of off the top of my head that felt like were really important just in a historical sense for like our generation and stuff like that is like, there was a collective sense of grief around 9/11. Like, I think that was obviously a collective experience that we all were part of, for the most part. And there's a collective grief in that experience. Another one, at least for me, that I feel like a lot of people had was the passing of Robin Williams. That was a big one that I feel like there was some of that, he was a person that everyone kind of felt like, of all the people to be depressed, everyone kind of was like, well, it couldn't have been him. But obviously we know, that depression and the mental health experience is very much masked. And sometimes for people, the way I kind of looked at it was that of course he was making everything funny because he felt a need to, because of how depression was impacting him. And so we have these collective moments where people are emotional about an event or a person that they may never have actually known, but it is still a form of grief because it is still a loss. And if you look at 9/11, there was obviously loss of individuals, but loss of kind of almost like a loss of innocence as well with our.
But also remember, I'm proud to be an American. I felt so American though. I was like, yeah, like I was there, man. I was there.
Right.
Never forget, I felt so compelled by that song. Like, it was amazing how we all went around this song.
Yeah. And yeah, it gave us like it talking about reframing, like it kind of, I felt like we were in this weird spot as a country where we were kind of seeing that division already starting, and it was like we had this moment where everyone kind of collectively across the world, not even just our country, were standing together for being an American and American ideals. And that kind of community, that kind of coming together was absolutely like a reframing of this horrible thing that happened to us as a nation. And so, there's obviously a lot has happened since then, but I feel like that was such a key moment, at least in our generation's history of like
Yeah.
what it meant to experience grief on a collective scale, um, and try to find our way from there. Let's
So
see.
I want to do this right now for our viewers.
Mhm.
I need you to get your gaming skill tree scribe. I probably find a cooler name later, but get a piece of paper and pen if you didn't know what I was trying to say. And I would love for you to get a journal. And I want to just give you this chance to do a side quest after this. So I want to invite you to silently reflect. Listen to these words. In my family / community, grief sounded like, grief looked like, grief was handled by, loss looked like. I'll say those again. So I want you to just take a moment to close your eyes and just think about, in my family or community, grief sounded like, grief looked like, grief was handled by, loss was dealt by. And just kind of write those out. Just think about the culture of grief you actually experience. And a couple of questions for you to consider are, what are the grief rules you inherited, spoken or unspoken? What rituals from your people helped you survive hard times? And lastly, what rituals do you want to reclaim or even create? I think taking time out to do that would be really important.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that obviously we have these skills and different like things that we try with people, but at the end of the day, like, you know, what works best for you is kind of dependent on how you experience things, how you have experienced things in the past. So taking that time to really identify those things can be used within therapy or even just on your own as a way to express the grief that you may be experiencing. So for some people, speaking of gaming, and actually speaking of gaming and the Robin Williams collective grief, the fact that he got turned into an NPC in a video game, that in and of itself is a way to cope with the grief of losing such a talented individual. And that is a very unconventional, not one that you would normally think of as a way to to deal with grief. So yeah, really take that time and try to figure out what that looks like for you, because I think that will give you a good heads up on how to approach it in the future. And another thing that we should probably talk about is anticipatory grief too, because I feel like that's something that we haven't touched on yet. So anticipatory grief is, the feeling of grief that you can have before a loss happens. So an example of this I can use from my own life again is my grandfather. He suffered from dementia, and so in the last year of his life, it was almost like we were beginning to already lose him, because he was forgetting who he was, forgetting who we were, and so there was this sense of grief that we were experiencing because he was forgetting what was going on around him.
And
oh, go ahead.
yeah, no, please finish.
And so understanding that sometimes you're going to experience grief before something may happen, and kind of maybe being able to identify that you are in that process, and also be helpful in allowing you to process through it. So,
And I think this is where Washington Wellness Institute becomes a little. This is how we kind of separate ourselves from the normal process of healing. So we want to use modern awareness to have modern effect and impact on healing. And so even social media can amplify grief, right? The constant reminders, the anniversary posts, the comparison grief, the public mourning pressure, right? Like, people want to diary everything, compare everything. And grief is such a personal process that you cannot meme yourself out of grief.
yeah. Yeah, I think that obviously has become a much bigger concern in our modern day and age, is the impact of social media on just everything, and certainly with grief. And, in some sense, I feel like it also kind of negatively reinforces a lot of stereotypes. And I think we'll touch on this as a separate saga at some point, but I think the stereotypes and social pressure among men to not show their emotions obviously can also play into improper or hard to deal with grief, because there's kind of this stigma around men showing their emotions. And I think also, especially with grieving the loss of a loved one, like there's a certain time period, it almost seems like people give time period before they're like, okay, you need to move on. And like, you think about, like, at employment you get bereavement time, but how long is bereavement time? What?
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's be real about the productivity culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to perform being okay, and then you have to show your bounce back, and then show how you're keeping it moving. And that is a tightrope of emotional distress, right? And I think for men especially, men have, for centuries, have performed their worth rather than actually were present with their own worth. So that's a whole other conversation right there. And I'm wondering, what if you know this as a therapist? Do you look at grief as something you hold space for people in, or do you see it as a process of self-concept?
I feel like it can be either or both. I think it really depends on how the person approaches it. I feel like grief can be the space that you hold. It could also be a lot of other things. I feel like there's much like with a lot of things I think we touch on, is like there's a lot of times where it's like, it's not that there's no right answer, it's that there's many right answers. And what that answer is dependent on the person asking or trying to answer it. I guess that would be, I feel like it's a bit of a dodge, like, from the question, but I feel like it also makes sense, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you feel about that, though.
I don't know. I'm not saying I'm a bully when it comes to how I look at this approach, but I like to fall. I would say fall on the sword. Fall on the sword or hide behind the shield, right? And because for me, grief, the way that I dealt with grief as a 16-year-old, and the way I dealt with grief as now the 36-year-old, right, 20 years later, is very different.
Right.
But the skills that I have are still the same, but just more important and invested in. So for me, I made a playlist about my dad from the beginning, middle, and the end. So like I would listen to that playlist, I would work out, and I would listen to the playlist from beginning to end. I would write and journal about him as I listened to the playlist, and I would stop after that. Or because I got better into music, I would record what I would say to my dad, and I listened to it the next day and just hear that again. Right. And even with technology, you have so many videos of your family and parents. You can make collages now in videos in reels to help process that. And for me, it's not really learning how to have closure, but it's learning how to normalize honoring the life that they've passed down to you, right? Or honoring the life that you experienced with that person, place, or thing. I don't need to keep you, to have you, but I have to live with the lessons I've learned from you, from your experience with me.
Sounds like you kind of developed almost like a grief ritual. Like
Exactly.
And so, for kind of what was just described, yeah, it's a grief ritual is basically doing something to honor that person. So, if it's having the playlist is a perfect example. For me and my grandfather, I have one of his old sweaters that I will occasionally just wear to just have kind of almost like feeling like he is there. Like that's a way that I process through that.
Wow.
So there's a lot of different ways that you can go about doing that, and kind of also again, like I really dove into community health and like trying to help people, social services and stuff like that. So trying to really honor kind of the ethical and moral side that I gained from and so for a lot, basically how I usually talk with clients about it is, find something of meaning that has some kind of sentimental meaning, whether it be an item or a place or something like that, and just make a conscious effort to dedicate some time to either go to the place or take the thing that reminds you of them, and just kind of if it's once a year, maybe on the anniversary of someone passing, or however is best for you. Some people, they like to start out doing it maybe weekly, and then as they get a little more comfortable, then maybe monthly, and slowly reducing it to then an anniversary. Trying to do something along those lines where you can still honor the person, still keep them in your thoughts, but also still continue to have your functional day-to-day life and everything. And I think that's really kind of what it boils down to, is how do we have this these emotions while also continuing to experience day-to-day life and function on a regular basis. So
I love that. And I also I would challenge, I want to challenge people to allow those thoughts of that thing, the loss, the change, the migration, the illness, whatever it may be, even if you have chronic pain, right? The illness of just not being able to be as capable and able, right?
Yeah.
That is energy that has to go somewhere. That's energy that has to go somewhere. And so you have an entire energy that was invested in a certain expectation, and now that there's a void. And so don't think of it as a loss, see it as a void that needs to be fulfilled. Right? It has to be transmuted in some way.
There's a book.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't jump.
No, go ahead. What about the book?
There's a book that I'm trying to remember what it was called. I think it's like the science of grief or something like that. But one of the things that it talks about is what is happening on a neurological level and what happens in the brain when you experience grief and lose someone. And what they found was that the way your brain processes things is, the best way I can like summarize it in my head is that your brain is kind of like a GPS. Like it has landmarks, it has things that it recognizes that like that belong in certain places. And when something changes or something moves, the brain gets thrown off by it. and the analogy they use in the book is that, you know, one night you're just going through your house, it's dark, you don't have a light, you're just walking through, and suddenly you bump into the table because it's been moved, like, or you almost trip because the table that was there is gone. That's what it was. And the idea is that because that is gone, your brain has to then remap what is that room without the table. And something similar happens when someone passes away, is that your brain has to then remap its GPS without that person being on your GPS anymore, that landmark. And that can take a long time. And it is a process that the brain has to go through, which I found just really fascinating, that the brain kind of works like that.
Yeah. Huh. So I like how we're getting into skills right now. But before we get into skills, I want to just do a do's and don'ts. I want to get into the don'ts. We were doing all the do's. Let's get into a don't.
Okay.
So where are some, well, I'll say it nicely. What's the most unhelpful thing to say to people that are grieving?
Ooh. Oh man.
Yeah, I was like, let's get into that, because people be saying the wrong stuff. Oh my gosh.
You'll be okay. I think in the moment.
Oh wait, let's do one and one. Wait, let's do one and one. Let's do one and one.
Okay,
So yours is, we'll go back and forth.
All right.
Do it again.
You'll be okay.
Just gotta pray through it, baby.
Yeah. Well, you're still here. You're.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Come on, let's get some smoke.
I don't want to be. I don't want it to be too. They really didn't mean that much. Ooh.
But how are you really connected to them, though?
Right. Yeah. Or like, well, I'm hurting too. Like that kind of invalidation of feelings.
When you coming back to work?
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, we really could use you. Like, yeah. That's rough. That was rough.
Ooh, I got going. Ooh, I got going. I didn't know when to call you because I knew you were grieving.
Are you done?
I've actually heard that one before.
Oh,
you look great now. You look great. You lost weight.
Oh, you need to just get over it. Like if you take too long, kind of going back to that like timeline thing, people saying like you just need to get over it. It's been long enough.
Have you seen a therapist?
Or just like, let me recommend one for you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. All right.
Here's what
That was
worked
good.
for me.
Oh, I hate those ones.
Yeah.
Ooh, I hate those ones. Well, especially because right now we're talking about like someone passing, right? So this is like something as simple as a breakup. They're like, oh, well, you'll find someone. You gotta just come work out with me.
Fish in the sea. Yeah.
Just come work out with me. Just lose weight and you'll be great. You get your bounce back.
Right.
I can't even get out of the bed right now. I'm that debilitated.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I think a lot of people, and this is just kind of in mental health in general, is like people fail to kind of really understand that we all experience life different, and we all have experienced life in different severities. So what might be easy for one person to go through, or one person might have skill already, for another person, it could take significantly longer and they have a much more difficult time. And that's okay. And it's okay for that person to take that time. So I think that is a thing that bothers me about just society in general, is the kind of the judgment of, well, because I had this experience and this is how I got through it and this is how quickly I got through it, I don't understand why someone else can't do that.
Yep,
And
but
that's
that's
not how it goes.
also yeah, but that's also how that whole social media culture is, right?
Exactly.
The people start sending you videos and memes about grief, and then it's like now you're overloading me with a bunch of information.
Hmm.
Now I'm having comparison grief
Yeah.
without actually saying it. It's great information, but I may not have been ready to watch that yet.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think the biggest takeaway for this is check in and let them take the resource,
Right.
right? Hey, I was just checking in on you. I'm not asking for anything. I'm not telling you anything. I'm not. Hey, I'll call you again in a day or two, and always follow through, because when people go through grief, they remember everything that isn't happening around them,
Right.
right?
Consistency.
So if you don't have the space, the capacity to do that, don't offer anything.
Yep.
Just say I'm checking in.
Yep.
You don't gotta say, well I can. If you don't have it, don't do it.
Right.
Disappointment is not a good feeling in grief.
Yeah. Do not make empty promises on the thought that you are going to, uh, if you're not going to follow through on it. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's going to be more harmful in the long run.
Yep. And so I want to get into the skills section before we head out here. And it was a beautiful little thing about when it comes to grief, we don't want to delete grief. And I want to give you a simple framework. You know, they have DABDA, right? You know, denial, anger, bargaining. You know, that one, the 5. But I want to give a new one, right? I want to give a new one just for you all. So get your journals out, okay? Here it goes. It's called presence. Presence. So, first one, P means pause. Stop trying to do everything when you're grieving. Stop trying to fix everything. Don't try to make things right. Don't try to make things better. Be still and watch everything around you. Don't chase the chaos. So pause. Don't fix. I didn't say to stop. I didn't say to push through. I said to pause. So you're making sure you're looking at everything you can. The next one is reflect. Does that make sense? Is what I'm doing right now in this moment making sense? Because you're going to do a lot of things that don't make sense. You're going to do a lot of things that's familiar or convenient and not quality, right? The things that you're doing, does that make sense to what I'm going through right now? So just make sure you reflect. E, express, care. So to help people, right? Express care. I'm here. A lot of times people don't know how to show up for you because you don't know how to show up for you right now. So if there are people that are important to you, express the care that you need. So, hey, I'm here. I'm present. Hey, I'm here. I'm not the best, but I'm here. And be honest about it. People are going to walk up to you and be like, well, how's it going? How's it going? How's it going? And you have to say, hey, I'm here, but I don't really want to talk about it. I'm just trying to stay here right now. It's okay to say, hey, I'm just here right now. I don't really want to go into it more, but I am here. I'm just trying to be here. And then you can leave whenever you want to. S, support choices. Do you want to talk, distract, or sit quietly? Give people an option. Don't give someone one option. Give them multiple. Allow them to choose, and then you support whatever choice it is, even if it's made up with the one that you think. That's the way to go. So support their choices. Do you want to talk, distract, or sit quietly? E, ease logistics. So when it comes to people that are grieving, remove their obligations. Don't say, hey, where do you want to eat? Where would you like to go? Oh, well, can you make it at this time? Hey, why aren't you answering my text? Right? No. You make the food. Hey, I made pasta. I'm bringing it over to you. Oh yeah, we're going to go see a wrestling match. I'm picking you up at 3 o'clock. Oh, you didn't? Here, give me your emails. I'll look at your emails and do that for you. I'll organize that. Oh, hey, I'm gonna clean your house real quick. You just show up. You just do it. And then you leave. Don't stay. Just be there, right? Ease logistics. In. Name the person and loss. Don't erase. Hey, I know it was hard for you. Hey, I know this transition was rough. Hey, no. I'm sorry that Sam can't be here. I know you miss Sam so much. Hey, I know you really loved Greg, right? Like, name the person, name the thing, name the loss. You don't mystify them or the person, place, thing, experience. Say the thing. Also, check in later. Grief gets lonely after a week 2. Everybody's always there during the hospital and during the funeral, the repast, and or you lose your home and you get to get a new home. And everybody's there giving you all these clothes, and making sure you live in the hotel room. But after that week 2 or 3, everybody moves on. If you're not there in the beginning with them, show up 2 weeks later, and they'll appreciate that even more.
Absolutely.
And then lastly, encourage help when needed, especially if safety is a concern, right? So if they're trying to, I'm just gonna fix my dad's car because I miss him so much, and they have no skill fixing a car. Like, hey, let me help out, and or let me bring a friend I know is a mechanic. You can give an estimate about what needs to happen, right? Remind them that asking for help is a part of the process, not a part of the pain. So, once again, pause, don't fix. Reflect, make sure it makes sense. Express, I'm here, express care. Support their choices. You want to talk, distract, sit quietly, something like that. Ease logistics. So, bring the food, do the ride, create the administrative help, and then check in later. And then lastly, encourage help. So I hope that the presence, I hope that really helps out with just the skill set, right? That's how you help people that are grieving. That's how you help people that are grieving. And if you are someone that is in grief, think about how these people in your life may be trying to do one of these letters. That's very, very important. It's just reminding us that grief changes shape. It doesn't disappear, and it becomes integrated. How did you feel about that phrase, Kyle?
I like that. I think that is very helpful. And I think that that'll be a great way for some people to not only experience grief, oh my God, but also...
That's ridiculous.
Jesus. All right, I'm out. But not only will it kind of help people that are in the process of grieving, but I think it's also a good way to help people who know people who are grieving, and I think that's just as important, because obviously at the end of the day, support systems are one of the most key things that you can have to maintaining a sense of a healthy mental state. So I think that's absolutely vital. So I think that's great. I did want to get to, I had one question from someone on Twitter, Reddick, old buddy of mine. And I feel like we've touched on some of this, so we'll go through it, but I think that we're going to end up having answered a lot of this already. But he had a question. According to us, what's the best way to deal with grief? He recently saw clips of people saying that when someone breaks up, it's also sort of a grief process since you have to let someone go. What's your stance on that? And I feel like we kind of have touched on that a little bit, obviously.
We can be direct about it, yeah.
Yeah. So relationships, a loss of a relationship 100% is a sense of grief, because you are grieving the relationship itself, what that person meant to you, and what you were like in that relationship, whether it be positive or negative. And so, 100% that is a grieving process. As far as the best way to grieve, I think we've touched on that as well. What's going on? I'm having something. There we go. Game keeps pausing. But we kind of talked about how it's really individual to the person as far as the best way to grieve. I think that a lot of that is going to be determined by what works for you, what you prefer in terms of like what makes sense. And obviously, we've
Yeah.
talked about different skills. We've talked about different ways that you can, but that doesn't mean that those ways are going to work for one person. So
Yeah.
there's always good resources online, like Therapist's Aid has a lot of like worksheets and different things like that are really helpful. You can always go on there and see what kind of grief-related items they have there. But yeah, I think a lot of it just boils down to the person and what works best for them.
Yeah. I would say I'll keep it simple and say, make your grief personal, make it matter, make it meaningful, and allow it to have movement, whether in your body, with others. You have to really make it meaningful. You have to make it matter, and you have to have movement within it. I think we don't know how to make an impact after we lose something in our lives. But when you give it meaning, there is so much fruit to pain when we sit and we really honor the value of the loss, right? And that can be scary sometimes, but I think that is truly the foundation of it. Make it meaningful. What was the lesson, not the loss, in that person? When you love somebody for their loss, you learn that there's actually a lesson in their love. So anything you lose was never meant to be a loss if you learn the lesson in it.
Absolutely. The last thing that I also had someone reach out to me, and they said that they had like a personal experience with grief that they wanted to share. So as long as you're cool with it, and they gave me permission to share this on the video. If you want, I can read through it.
Yeah, we have enough time.
Yeah, we should have enough time. We got about 5 minutes.
Perfect.
So they kind of started off saying they weren't really sure how to start as far as writing it and everything, but they basically said, there's different ways to grieve a loss. No right or wrong way around it unless it's literally destroying you. Which I think, again, we kind of talk about like how do you remain functional while grieving. I've come to relate it like standing on a beach, which I really liked this analogy. Some days the waves are slight and just wash over your feet and you're good. Some days the waves come up to your knees, make you struggle and keep balance, but you can collect yourself and make it through the day. Some days the waves just knock you over and pretty much you're out of commission for the day. And I thought that was a really good analogy, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Then there are days where the waves sweep you out to sea and it takes a few days to recover. I'm pretty sure I've cycled through all the stages, denial, anger, depression, etc., at least once, maybe twice, although I have lived in the depression stage longer. I've been told there's help for this. Yes, I know, but I honestly can't think of what else can be done other than what I have talked openly, other than what I have. Talked openly, written notes, honored them in some way, paid homage, kept things that once belonged to them. A lot of the stuff that we did talk about. I lost my brother-in-law unexpectedly in 2023, and at the same time my dog was dying. I actually had been grieving my dog that whole year, grieving the dog he used to be, and then grieving the loss of him, which was early 2024. So I've been having in grief for the last 10 years. Father-in-law 2013, sister-in-law 2019, grandparents-in-law, brother-in-law 2023, and the dog in 2024. I grieved each of them differently, and the hardest has been my brother-in-law. I still feel the heaviness, have days of sadness and tears, and trying to make sense of that. And then they got interrupted because they have kids, so they weren't able to finish what they were saying. But I responded saying that I appreciated them for sharing that information with us. And I want to go back to, I think that ocean or the waves.
I agree with that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, some days those waves, it's just a small little thing. Other days it can be a tsunami. And the other thing that I think I don't think we touched on is that, yes, there's the stages of grief, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, all of that stuff.
Denial.
Denial. It is not linear, and don't think that it is. You may be in anger one day and then you're in denial the next, or you jump from acceptance and then 2 years later you're back to denial. It is not a linear thing, and it is not something that you go through the stages and you're done. It can be a thing that you re-experience and come back to multiple times, and that's okay. Understanding that that's the experience and that is normal, I think is also a thing that we kind of often forget to express.
And lastly, I would say also with the wave concept, in any healing, right, and also in any wave, you don't fight the wave, right? If you want to come back to sea or come back to land, you have to allow your body to be taken back to it. So don't fight the feeling. You actually get through grief a lot faster and more fluidly by actually allowing it to take its course. So the what makes grief take such a long process is because we don't allow ourselves to experience whatever comes present. So if it comes up, let it out. If you feel on the inside, let it be there. Feel it, embrace it. And the easier you do that, and the more willing you do that, you become less crystallized about your expectations about who you think you should have been in this moment. So be a part with the wave, be with the waves.
Mm-hmm. Let yourself have those, let the wave take you on the days that it takes you.
Yeah.
And those days where, it's just at your feet.
Appreciate those.
Yeah, let it wash over your feet. So
yes.
100%. So we are at time. So this has been the first episode and the grief saga. If you have any experiences that you yourself have gone through, or if you have any further questions, obviously you are more than welcome to reach out to us or leave a comment. And aside from that, Will, any final words?
Heal always, and remember, optional and essential. And we'll see you next time.